What's up, everybody? Welcome to Simple Songwriting, episode 12. We are talking about Post Malone's F-1 Trillion album. We actually already did an episode on this. It did not record Aubrey.
I
So
was gonna say this is really episode 12.5.
12.5. So yeah, we had a really great discussion about F-1 Trillion. It was cool. And nobody will ever hear it. So we're gonna try it again. We're gonna give it another shot. So a little bit of a deviation from what we normally do. Instead of doing one song, we're just gonna kind of talk about the album as a whole. It's gonna be more of a discussion between us, and it's gonna be a little more open. So we're gonna just kind of talk, give points, and yeah. Oh, and it's gonna be shorter. We're gonna shoot for,
Much shorter.
yeah, it's gonna be about an hour. So yeah,
Knock on wood.
knock on wood, right? So anyway, I guess before we get started, I haven't really listened to anything new the past week. I don't think, or the past 2 weeks really, um, that I can think of.
Um, New music. Still just been listening to the Post Malone album that I really enjoy. Windrose released another single off their album that comes out in October.
Hmm.
Um, it came out today. I've only listened to it once or twice. Um,
Oh, you know what?
can't
I
remember the name of it. To Be a Dwarf or I'm a Dwarf, something like that.
To be a dwarf Windrose. Here, hold on.
Something like that.
I'll put it on my list to listen to. Something that I actually did listen to was the new Motley Crue cover of Beastie Boys, Fight for Your Right to Party.
I did not know that was a thing.
You're probably better off. It is not good. Um, uh, Motley Crue, controversial statement. I've always thought Motley Crue was just a little bit overrated. Just a little bit. Not super overrated. I just think, like, when you compare them to like Van Halen or Guns N' Roses or Metallica or like any of those big bands from the 80s, right? Like Motley Crue was definitely the like party band, girls, girls, girls. But like, I don't know. I just Yeah, I don't know. I just never quite like got into Motley Crue 100%. So anyway, and I don't know if they're one of those bands that's gotten better with age either. So
They definitely have not gotten better with age.
yeah, so
That much I can say.
it's very like, I don't know. You really show your age when you're like a band from the 80s doing a cover of a Beastie Boys song in 2024. It's like I'd want to hear Motley Crue do a cover of like a song that came out in like the 2020s or the 2010s or something, you know? Like that'd be interesting. But whatever. That's a whole separate thing. Anyway, um yeah, that's about all I've been listening to though. It's been busy. It's been a busy few weeks, so yeah, we can jump right into let's jump into Post Malone. So,
Yep.
you know, I know you and I already talked about it, but let's start. Why don't you give the listener your thoughts on the album?
Yeah. So I think it's a good album. You know, I'm not a huge country boy, country person. I don't listen to. I would say the country is probably one of my lesser listened to genres.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that uh, there's a song on this album for everybody. Of course, I guess it helps that there's like 21 songs or something like that,
Like
27 songs.
a
So that might
billion.
make it a little bit easier,
Yeah, actually,
but
let me pull up the
uh,
track list.
it's 18 plus 9.
Yeah, 27. Shoo.
So yeah, I think it's a good album. I don't think it's like, the best album ever made.
Hmm.
I don't think it's the worst album ever made. Um, but yeah, I would be lying, I think, if I haven't listened to it in some capacity since it came out every day.
Okay, fair enough. I think I phrased this a little bit funnier on the last episode, but everybody enjoy this moment of bliss. Uh, before I talk about my opinions, very nice. Get it out. Just enjoy this. I did not like the album. I actually am a pretty solid country fan. I've always liked country music. I actually grew up listening to a lot of different country music, like before I found rock and metal and stuff. Um, yeah, I thought this album was very I don't know, I think I phrased it as like it felt like country cosplay. It felt like somebody pretending to be country. Um and I actually felt like it was like country music for people who don't listen to country, which is kind of funny considering Aubrey is not like the biggest country fan.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
now with that said, it's not like garbage. It's not like it's the worst thing I've ever heard, but I just think there are a lot of moments as I was listening through the album, I kept getting this feeling, and then as it went on, there were lyrical lines or musical things that would happen, and I just got to the point in the album where I realized I was like, this feels like a gimmick, and I think the line that really solidified that for me, he says something along the lines of like, when you broke up with me or when you told me you were leaving in that Exxon parking lot, it's like that's somebody who is pretending to be country. Like a actual country person wouldn't write a lyric like that. And so, I think that lyric comes up in Never Love You Again. I think that's the word. I think that's the song. And it's about three-quarters of the way through the album, the main album, not including the backing tracks. And I just was kind of like, all right, I can't take this. It just doesn't seem like authentic country to me. But with that said, like there's some decent stuff. Like the musicians all sound fantastic. Everyone that he got to play music on this album is great. All of the features, I might not like the lyrics, and I think some of the songs are kind of corny, but all of the features sound really good. Like Blake Shelton, Dolly Parton, Brad Paisley, like they always sound fantastic. Um, yeah, like it was very, and so then there was an interesting thing with him front loading all of the features, right? Like I
yeah,
I think that's weird. And I think I mentioned this before, but it's like there is this it gives this two pronged effect, or there's like two downsides to it where like on like first it kind of makes you look insecure in my opinion. To me it's like you have 18 songs on your album, but before he released the second half he has 18 songs on the album and 15 of them have features from like famous country artists. It's like, to me that says you don't feel confident enough in your ability to do this genre to like to make it your album. Instead you turn it into almost like this collaborative album with all of the biggest hits in country, as if like they're to get them to kind of pick you up. And I don't know, I just found it to be a bit it was just a strange move, especially since I actually like the songs on the second half a bit more. The solo songs, like, you know
yeah. The non-featured songs.
yeah, I just think they actually sound better. Like they sound more full. And it kind of makes sense too when you think about like writing a song with somebody else. Most of these songs are like verse chorus, maybe a bridge, and then the chorus again, and each singer gets a verse, like one verse and one chorus. And that's kind of a weird way to write a song. I'm gonna write my verse. I get for like maybe rap, but for a normal country song, it's like, here, let me get my verse, and then I'll sing the chorus, and then you write whatever you want to write about, and you sing the chorus. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's tough to make that sound complete. It's not impossible, and people do it all the time, but it's tough to tell a full, complete story like that as an artist. So,
I would like to know what the budget was for features.
oh God, okay, trillion, F-1 trillion, like that's what, like it was. Yeah, I mean, he's got
Because
everybody.
to kind of go to your point, right? Like, I'm curious to know, one, how many songs are written for this album? Because even if we get rid of like the long bed, we're still talking about a 18 track album, which is like just doesn't really happen, I feel like, in today's world.
It usually only happens with like a rap artist or something, or maybe
Right.
but
Yeah.
like Here's the thing though, and because yeah, the budget is crazy. There's so many songs, but the album is still only about 57 minutes, and that's because every song is generally in that like 2.5 to 3.5 minute range, which kind of brings up one of my other critiques. I feel like this album, like I kept waiting for it to like, so specifically with Post Malone, I think a lot of people, you know, when they thought of Post Malone doing country, they thought of it kind of more in that beer bongs and Bentleys format where it's very somber and very emotional. And he kind of went a very mainstream route with this country album, which I personally did not like. I think it's, you know, he could have done something very creative and very new, especially when you consider like the new wave of country that's coming out with like the Zach Bryans and stuff, where it's this kind of red dirt country. But yeah, he went a very generic kind of country pop route with it, and I think it shows. I feel like it starts to really stick out as the album goes on, where every song, to me, I felt like the songs started to run together a little bit. I wasn't really hearing a whole lot of differentiation. Obviously, there's some, you know, there is different songs. There's sadder songs and more ballady songs, but none of them, in my opinion, differentiated themselves enough for me to be like, oh yeah, like that one song did something very different than that other song. You know, I think maybe the closest we got was Mexico, the Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
just because the style of that song is got a little, you know, flair to it. It's fun. It's a little bit of a different thing, but yeah, I think that cookie cutterness though, when you have every single song is 2.5 to 3.5 minutes and they all follow the same formula, and they're all kind of like, you know, I got coffee or I got whiskey in my coffee. I'm down at the bar. It's like, all right, you know, okay, fine, we get it. You're country, like so. But yeah, it's a lot of songs, but it still is less than an hour. I don't know, interesting. But then when you add the extra 9 songs, it's total 87 minutes. So it's like another 30 minutes of music. But I do think he took more musical risks and did more interesting stuff on this on the second half. You know,
Yeah, well, I think so. I think kind of um, part of the challenge issue, whatever word you want to throw in there is like I think if you spend the money on a feature, you like
you
have to
gotta
put that on the album, right?
right.
Or else it's just like a waste.
Yeah, and see, I can understand that. Uh, but that's where again, like you think about like the making of the album, right? And what does he want to do creatively and artistically? And it's like we compare it to, let's compare them to Avenged Sevenfold. We got to have our Avenged Sevenfold reference, right? Like before Avenged Sevenfold writes an album, they've discussed this many times. They say they figure out what they want to do and what the album wants to look like and what the artistic vision is, and they really plan like what do they want to say and like what is their message, right? So there's a lot of forethought that goes into just planning the album in general. But then and then they execute on that, and so that's why, you know, Avenged Sevenfold, I don't even know if they've ever had a feature on any of their songs, and I think it's because they've got such a strong creative vision that they don't, you know, call it selfish, call it whatever, but they don't want to let go or they don't want to leave it in somebody else's hands. And so then you compare it to an album like this and it's like, well, what's your artistic message? It's like, I just want to do country. Okay.
Right.
Do you want to do something different in country? No, I just want to do country. Just something with country. It's like, okay. He's like, you know what? I want all the biggest country stars on my country album. Oh, okay, cool. You know, so it doesn't. But so that's the thing though, is it starts at the artistic process, like the creative process of like what you want the album to be, and then you start deciding to bring in these country artists and have all these features and stuff, and so that's where I'm like, you're totally right. If you're going to pay the money for the feature, you know, you got to have the feature, right? Especially if it's like Dolly Parton. But then at the same time, it's like, why'd you get all these features to begin with? Like, what were you trying to do? And, you know,
Yeah.
so
I think um So since our last episode, one of the things you talked about was like it not really being country and like all the big country people that you listen to, like Big and Rich and Carrie Underwood, the Dixie Chicks, and stuff like that. So I think kind of a silver lining to last week's episode
Hmm.
disappearing into the ether is that I've now since had a week to listen to a lot more country, like I said I was going to, like to listen to a lot more of the people specifically that he had featured.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I had this thought um, the other day, and where basically, like, to me, I call this album country, and we are talking about like Johnny Cash and like other different country artists and Big and Rich, and so I feel like country, in a sense, I think this is across a lot of musical genres, but I think like the first two big ones that come to my like the first one that comes to mind for me is because it's my most listened to like category is like rock, heavy metal, like or just metal in general.
Hmm.
And like, then when you look at metal, there's like black metal, death metal, hard rock, soft rock, core, grindcore, all the things, right?
Yeah. Every type of
And
core.
so yeah, crab core. Um, eh, so I like my point I'm trying to make is that like I mean all of those things, all of those different chords, hard, soft, light, black, you know,
Yeah.
like they're still in under the umbrella of like metal, right?
Yeah, they're
I
all
just think there's
still
just so
they're rock and metal. Like rock metal kind of is this specific subset of music, you know? And
so
what we yeah.
well, so what I was gonna say was is that like I feel like with country, you know, I feel like it's some of the same stuff is starting to happen with how diverse it's gotten and changed over the past, however many years of like
Yeah.
Big and Rich. I would say that like Big and Rich to me is like a little bit more like closer to rock than like quote unquote to country.
Well, yeah,
They
cuz
just throw in a banjo.
you get like you have like country rock, you get bluegrass, there's country rap, there's country pop, there's like the Zach Bryan, the Red Dirt Country, then you get like Noah Kahan, which you've said is very like barely country, but it's more like folk. And I would
Yeah.
put something like folk under, country before I'd put it under rock or metal, and so it's I get what you're saying though. There's like there's all these different genres and styles here. Um, what were you? But were you still making your point though, or were you still going?
Well, yeah, I mean, my point was basically done, but just in the sense of like I still very much so would call this a country album. I think it just falls under more of like that um poppy-ish
Oh yeah, like
rock.
here's the thing. This is 100% country. Like I'm not gonna say it's not. My complaint with it, as somebody who enjoys lots of the different styles of country, I think I was expecting maybe a more creative take from Post Malone, and I was expecting, coming from like the worlds that he comes from, the kind of pop, rap, you know, whatever you want to call his genres. Like I was expecting a very interesting, like heartfelt, kind of more authentic take on country, like his take on country, and
Hmm.
instead it feels like he is pretending to be like these other country artists, and he ended up making like he made a Blake Shelton country song or a Brad Paisley country song, and it's very like but then again I think that those artists are better country artists than Post Malone is, and at least at what they do, and so it almost sounds like Post Malone is the feature on all of these other artists songs. Like I don't get the sense that he's the show leader here. It's like on an Eminem album, he'll have lots of features, but it's still Eminem's album. Like
Hmm.
I just what I'm saying is that he had a lot of different options for country that he could have done, and I think he went with the most like country pop kind of cookie cutter version of country, and I'm a little bit disappointed by that. I think it should have. I think that he could have had a very unique and interesting take on country as someone who is coming from a more somber or like the rap, rock, pop place that he's coming from, but he's always done, like slow, somber acoustic guitar songs on his album and stuff. And it's like he's had that there. So I think that I would have loved to have seen that translated over like more into the country angle as opposed to just abandoning all of that and just going like full force into like country rock or country pop, I mean. And so yeah, to your points, like there's all these different styles. Why'd you choose like the blandest one? That's my opinion on it. So yeah. What'd you think of some of those other country songs you were listening to?
Um, so um, the two big artists I really did deep dive on were Big and Rich, and Dolly Parton.
Nice.
And um, I feel like musically speaking, um, like from a just like a purely technical standpoint, I get what you're saying with like Big and Rich. Um, I did kind of feel like they were super cheesy corn dog though, like just with some of their topics and
Yeah.
some of the things they did.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that was also, I mean, it's funny because you think back to when, if did you listen to like Horse of a Different Color?
I just listened to their Apple Essentials, so maybe
Okay.
I couldn't tell you for sure.
So they were
If I
like
heard it, I could tell you.
so they were like at their biggest in like 2003 to 2005 around then. And it's funny when you look back at that like era of music, I feel like everybody was kind of a cornball, like the rock artists, like Kelly Clarkson, behind these hazel eyes, like a little bit of Avril Lavigne. Like I feel like that was a very like I'm not saying it was all bad, some of it's great, but there was a lot of that like taking everything way too seriously,
Yeah,
and so there is I think there was like a campiness in music in like the early 2000s. Even when you look back at like the early Bullet for My Valentine, like how dramatic some of the lyrics and the music videos and stuff where it's like, your tears don't fall, so I think that I don't know, I'm just kind of it's funny that you phrase it like that. I think that was just a campy time. But then we got into like this weird in like the 2010s we got into like the opposite where nothing could be campy. Everything was like hipsterish and like artsy fartsy and all that.
yeah.
But to be fair, I've never actually done a super big deep dive on Dolly Parton though. I mean, I've obviously heard a lot of her songs, but like I've never really dove into
She
it.
covered "We Are the Champions and We Will Rock You."
Mm, that's right. You had mentioned that to me. Um,
Yeah,
I did not listen to that. I should. I need to put that on my list too because I would love to hear that. It's funny. I feel like I've never heard Dolly Parton like belt though. She usually is kind of more of like cowgirl fun type stuff. But does she
yeah.
did she do a good job with the covers?
I mean, it was interesting, unique. Like I don't, it wasn't bad. I mean, it's definitely like a different artistic uh approach.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
I think it's one of those things that like you're gonna love it or you're gonna hate it, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, I'll check that out. That's interesting. So let's bring it back a little bit to the Post Malone album, and maybe let's dive into like some individual songs that we liked.
Mhm.
What would you say are like because you've been listening to it more. I listened to it twice.
Yeah.
I really wasn't feeling it. So but I do know the songs well enough. What would you say are like your most listened to songs at this point?
Yeah, so Wrong Ones, Finer Things,
Hmm.
uh, Mexico,
Yeah.
Yours, Dead at the Honky Tonk, and Hey Mercedes, I would say are probably my like favorite.
Hmm. Yeah, I do like Mexico. I think, I probably really like Mexico just because it's got such a cool little guitar solo in there. Um, and which is just different to me. but then I also loved. I think my favorite song on the whole album still is Two Hearts. I just
Hmm.
think that there's a really good section in the middle there. There's a violin solo with some interesting chord changes as well. Like it's got some very creative chord changes that I liked and that like actually stuck out to me. So yeah, Two Hearts in Mexico are probably my favorites. Um, the other ones, I'm not gonna lie, it's been about a week since I listened to them, and I kind of don't. Some of them just blur together at this point. Um, I do know like, so I can talk about my least favorites though, like the ones that really just made me go, "What the hell?" Um, I think it's probably Nosedive and Losers. I don't know what you think of those songs.
I don't really love Nosedive. Losers, it's like I could do without it, but I don't dislike it.
So let's talk about Nosedive because I think up to Nosedive is like almost exactly, yeah, Nosedive is halfway through the album. So I remember listening to it and I remember thinking like, okay, well, a few things. One, I thought the lyrics were okay, like the lyrics were decent, but it was like, but that's what it was. And I haven't talked about this yet on this episode. Post Malone's vibrato. So I really went into detail on this before. I'll go into it again. He does this vibrato thing with his voice that has worked in the past. It's like a shakiness where he goes, oh, and it sounds, I feel like on prior songs and albums that he's done, it worked because it almost, when you sing it in a somber way, like, oh, like it almost sounds like your voice is wavering or his voice is wavering, like he's about to start crying at any moment and break down. And I think it really like, it actually added to the, emotions of his vocals and the authenticity of the song, right? The problem is that he's kind of turned it into like a habitual thing that he does, and it just drives me crazy. Especially when he's singing with some of the best country singers of all time. It just sounds amateurish. I don't know if he thinks it's yodeling. Maybe he doesn't notice it. Maybe he's not trying to do it. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe he is doing it on purpose because he thinks it's like a signature thing that he does. I know lots of
I think
singers.
it's
What?
I think he thinks it's a signature thing.
Right. And that's the thing. Like that's not the signature thing that you want to be known for. That it does not sound good. I think it's worked on songs in the past, but on this album in particular, it just makes him sound so amateurish. Like listening to his verse and then going and listening to like Brad Paisley or Hank Williams Jr., it's night and day. It's like, dude, you are not in their league. And so I think Nosedive was where I really started to hit the end of my limit with that like warbly waving thing. It just got so tiring. I think maybe Never Love Again. No, it was Never Love Again. Nosedive was the one where he goes like, oh, like he kind of does that nose dive, and I think that's when I started to like get the hint that this was a gimmicky, like he was treating country like a gimmick. Because I actually, hold on, I'm gonna pull up the lyrics for Nosedive because I remember liking it, and then he did that, and it's like, do you guys get it? Hey listener, do you get it? I'm making my voice go down as if it's diving, like, oh, you know, um, yeah. Let's see. So he said the chorus is like, sometimes you're driving, sometimes you're stalling, sometimes you're flying, sometimes you're falling, but there's still beauty in the nose dive. It's like, oh my god, dude, you know. So I don't know. For some reason, that just really, it rubbed me the wrong way. It was not. I was like, this is a joke. Like to me, this song is not. It sounds like a genuine song at first, and then it's just this like joke song to me. Um, so that was the song about halfway through where I was like, I don't know, this feels like this is a gimmick. Like he had a serious song that was pretty cool, and now I'm not. It's not that anymore. And then Losers came on, and I think Losers was like, man, I don't know. I've liked Jelly Roll. Like I've been cool with Jelly Roll, but I'm really getting over it. the whole like I'm a piece of shit, I was nothing, I'm terrible, I'm a loser. Like I don't know, Aubrey, I just don't really listen to music like that. I don't know.
Um, I haven't listened to a whole lot of Jelly Roll, to be honest. I can't really comment
It's
too much there.
the truth is almost every single song is like that. It's like, you know, he did the feature on the Eminem album, you know, somebody, that's actually one of his most popular songs. And it's, you know, somebody save me from myself. I've been so long living in hell. You know, it's just like poor, pitiful me. I'm so sad. I'm so terrible. And it's becoming like a gimmick at this point, or not a gimmick. It's becoming tiring at this point. Like, it's not cool, it's not appealing, but it does appeal to a certain type of, you know, people who like that type of music, who, you know,
Right.
so sorry for me, so sad, you know, I'm just so depressed and I'm going to listen to depressing music about how much of a piece of shit I am, you know. And so then it's like you get this song Losers, and it's like, who is playing this? Like, who's going to play this? I just, I don't know. I can't imagine somebody like, I don't know. You said you haven't really been listening to it either. It's just such a strange song to me. It's like, you're a loser just like us. Come sit down at the losers table, you loser. You know, we're all just a bunch of losers together. It's like, that can be funny. Like, that can be kind of a fun, like funny, you know, angle. Like, it makes me think of like those early 2000s movies, like Waiting. You know what I'm talking about?
I know the movie, but I'm bad with movies.
Oh, that's right. I'm so, but you know, like there was that trope in a lot of those movies then where it's like, here's just this normal guy down on his luck, and then like something happens to him and he's got to be like, he's got to learn to step up or something. Like Idiocracy. Have you seen Idiocracy?
Nope.
What? That's a great movie. You should watch
Ah,
Idiocracy. We actually just watched it last night. It was really funny. Um, anyway, regardless, there is, you know, it's funny. Like it can be a thing. It's an interesting topic. Taking a guy. What about Office Space? Have you seen Office Space?
I do know Office Space.
Okay. All right.
Oop. Oh, yeah, that one I know.
Okay. So it's all the same trope, right? It's like you've got this normal guy. He's kind of a loser. He doesn't really try very hard, and then like almost always he meets a girl and he wants to impress her in the movie, and then it's like he's got to actually put effort in and not be a loser, and then at the end they fall in love because he's no longer a loser or something, or maybe he learns to be himself. I don't know. Regardless, the point is that there, you can tell stories about like dudes who are losers, and it can be appealing. And
Hmm.
even musically, like there's nothing wrong with listening to a song every now and then that portrays like, you know, kind of feeling down about yourself, or like putting yourself down just a little bit, right? Like I think Eminem has always done a great job at that. Like he very rarely is just like, oh, I'm the worst, I'm a piece of shit, I'm the worst. It's usually like, man, I feel really bad, and like I feel kind of insecure, or I have these problems now, and then he just talks about that and really talks about it in like a rational, you know, clear-headed way, versus something that where I feel Jelly Roll does, which is just, you know, I'm a loser. I'm the worst. Why is my girlfriend with me? I suck so much. Like, okay. So anyway, I think those two songs in particular, when I was listening through the album, that's when I really got, I think that's when I kind of got disconnected from the album a bit. And then it was Never Love You Again. Let me make sure it was that song with the lyrics. Now, to be fair, I am talking about the songs that I didn't like right now, but I will talk about the stuff that or I did kind of mention the ones I liked already, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know. That's not actually, it looks like that's not the one where he mentions Exxon parking lot. I forgot. Dang, I should have done my research better. I don't know.
You knew last week when we recorded it the first time.
Yeah, I had it on lock last week. Oh, speaking of, we didn't do the Craig recording. Let's do that right now. Can you do it on your end?
What do I type? Oh, I just click.
So you go to the
I think it's
chat.
going.
No, Craig isn't recording.
Okay, what do I do?
It's on Discord. You've got to go to the chat,
Yep, I'm here.
and then you would type in slash join,
Uh-huh. Okay, cool.
and then the Craig button will show up, and then you just press enter on that, and you'll see Craig
Oh, I don't
join.
I don't have permissions because I don't manage the server.
Oh shit. Okay, here I got it.
It's okay. I mean, at this point, it is what it is.
Now recording.
Yeah, I've been keeping track of it just to make sure, but we should make it a habit. But yeah, okay, cool. Anyway, let me check these lyrics real quick because I want to see which song that line was in the Exxon part.
I'm sure if you typed in Post Malone song Exxon parking lot, it would pop up
Oh
on
yeah,
Google.
I just got it. It was "Missing You Like This" featuring Luke Combs. So it's the song after "Never Love You Again." Um, yeah. So he says, Here's the lyrics of the verse. I thought I'd think about you every now and then when the rain falls down in Kansas. When I hear dust in the wind, it's like, okay, all right, like it's still a little bit like country fanish, but I'll buy it. Everyone knows dust in the wind. When I told you I was leaving in that Exxon parking lot, I thought the whole world would keep on turning. No one told me it would stop. That I think that was the line that lost me for the whole album. I was like, I'm good. This is ridiculous. So, yeah. Anyway, I guess it's safe to say I'm not like the biggest fan of a lot of the lyrics on the album. I think that they come across kind of like that, like I said, country cosplay. But yeah, what are some other what else have we not talked about on this album yet? Is there anything that you wanted to say? I'm looking through different topics now.
I mean, I feel like, I feel like this is exactly what I expected from a Post Malone country album personally. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I like he delivered exactly what I would think it would be. Like, I get your disappointment, I guess, for him maybe kind of being cookie cutter-ish and doing all the features, but like, I'm
Yeah,
not mad at it.
I'm trying to see. I'm looking at his list right now, or his song list now. There is a song that he did on Beer Bongs and Bentleys, which is very
Hmm.
much like it. It's more of what I thought he was going to do. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Unfortunately, I don't know so much of. I'm not like extremely familiar with his lyric or with his all of his songs. Part White Iverson, congratulations. No, I might not be able to find it in time. I just don't know his songs that well. But point
Okay.
being, yeah, it just wasn't quite what I was expecting it to be. I really thought it was going to be a bit more of an interesting take, something a little bit more creative. But hey, you know, that's something that I did want to mention that I haven't talked about yet. I do think that it is genuine. I do think that Post Malone is excited to be doing some country stuff and that he likes country. So I don't want it to sound like, oh, he's fake. That's why I phrased it as like country cosplay. It's like, even like the cosplayers and stuff, they love the stuff they cosplay as, right? But they're not actually that character. And so that's kind of the point. It's like, I think that he actually really likes country, and he's always had like a little bit of a country influence in his music. And I think he was probably very excited to work with all of these people, and maybe that's what his motivation was, for this album, was to just work with a lot of his favorite country stars. I think the problem is that he didn't he didn't like show his version of country, or like a creative version or vision of country that is unique to him, that in my opinion would have set him apart and like actually given him, put him up on that pedestal with some of these other country artists. I think instead, like, he sounds like a fan, like he's just a country music fan, but he's not actually like a country artist who got the chance to do something like this, which here's the thing. That's fine. Like not every album has to be, you know, some big epic artistic masterpiece. Like sometimes it can be just fun. And I get that. I'm just personally a little bit disappointed. But I do think that he, you know, he was excited to do it and it was a passion project type of thing for him. And so yeah, I wanted to at least give him that. But yeah,
That's fair.
cool. So anyway, I think that's pretty much the whole album. We covered pretty much everything. It was a good little talk. Trying to think if there was. I think maybe the last thing I'd say about it. This will be my last little tidbit. Is I think one of the frustrations I had with the album as a whole and the creative direction he went as a whole, apart from just being, in my opinion, kind of cookie cutter country pop, is that I felt like a few years ago when like Zach Bryan and Noah Kahan were coming out, I felt like we were starting to move away from this country pop sound because there was a long time where like country wasn't popular at all. Like country was on this huge downward spiral with, you know, She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy and like all of these kind of bullshit songs that didn't even sound like country music anymore. It wasn't authentic, it wasn't real, and I don't think it was resonating with people very much. So then when we had this kind of country revival happen in the past few years, I've really enjoyed it. You know, this move away from the country pop stuff and more into like, you know, human, like real life music that sounds authentic and that you can relate to. And so it's, you know, seeing that change happen over the past few years and then watching it kind of, you know, watching artists come out with stuff like this, because Post Malone's not the only one who's come out with country, you know, country music. It's, you know, Marshmello, Beyonce, you know, Machine Gun Kelly's coming out with some stuff now, and you know he's just great. So, but no, he is. Just to be clear, I am not a fan. But the point is like I'm I feel like we were moving away from this stuff with like authentic country artists like Zach Bryan. And we are now, it's like we've come full circle and it's been long enough since this country revival happened that all of like the non-country artists can start doing it. And they don't understand why it's coming back in the first place, like what was making it good or enjoyable, or like why the masses gravitated to it a few years ago. And so they're just jumping on the trend and they're making cookie cutter country music. And as someone who's paid attention to country music the whole time, I'm like, damn, like it was really nice while it lasted, you know, it was really fun, but I feel it coming to an end. Like we're already on the downward slope, which is kind of a bummer to me. But anyway, so
Womp, womp.
womp womp. Oh, actually, one little last thing, and this isn't really related to me, but on the last episode, you know, the album had only been out for a few days, so we couldn't see how it did. But now we can. Did it hit the top of the Billboard 200? I think it did.
I would think so. I'd be amazed if it didn't.
I would have been absolutely blown away if it didn't. Yep, there it is. It is number one. Hey, actually, Tortured Poets
keep
Department is number 3.
Ooh,
Now
who's number 2?
so here's the thing. I am actually very familiar with number 2. I have been seeing this artist everywhere, and I saw this happening for maybe the past like month or so. I'm very surprised that this artist has gotten as high as they've gotten. Do you have any guesses at all? I don't know if you would have heard of this person.
Give me a genre.
It is it's definitely pop, and it is a girl.
I mean, I would say Sabrina Carpenter, but
So
that would
I think she's just coming out with her album like this week.
okay.
Hold on, let's see.
No, it's soon.
Yeah, because you're right. She is definitely like when she comes out with her album, she's going to be at the top. Like Sabrina Carpenter is huge. Okay, so yeah, it was released on August 23rd. So as of this recording, that was last week. So, but it is not Sabrina Carpenter. There is another album that came out last week that actually I don't know if
I
it
don't know
even.
then.
Okay, so I'm gonna let you know. It is Chappelle Roan, and the album is called "The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess."
I have never heard of that person.
So she is very interesting as an artist. It's definitely, girl pop, but she's got a much more like I don't know how to describe it. It's a bit wilder, a bit weirder. Like, it's not like I would put okay, so you got like Taylor Swift, right? Where Taylor Swift pretty poppy, standard pop. She started off in country, but now she's pretty much just like, maybe some of her more recent stuff has been like folk pop ish,
Mhm,
but it's pretty generally just pop. Then you have Sabrina Carpenter, which you could say is more like fun, girly pop type thing.
mhm.
Whereas Chappelle Roan is maybe a little bit darker, a little synthier, a little more like weird girl pop. So you should check her out. Look up the song Pink Pony Club. I think that's like the big song. So I think it would probably be fun to do an episode on one of her hits. But yeah, she's cool. So yeah, she is number 2. Taylor Swift is number 3, which probably means honestly we might be seeing the downfall of Tortured Poets Department with Sabrina Carpenter coming out with some new stuff too. So man.
Wah, wah, wah.
Womp, womp, womp.
It amazes me how this is a side tangent here of like even though the Dead Poet Society or Poet Teachers whatever society I think is
Tortured Poets Department.
yes was kind I don't want to say a flop but like definitely not her best work. I think her fan base would all agree
Yeah.
that it still is like just freaking up there.
Well, I feel like when Midnights came out, right? Like Midnights came out, it was that album, something about that album with the combination of that with the Eras tour, it like it skyrocketed Taylor Swift. Like it was as if it had
Yeah.
been, she was already huge, like top biggest artist ever and all that, right? But I think she was still just considered like, an American artist, whatever. She's just a pop star, very famous pop star. But then she came out with Midnights and it was as if that like exploded. Like it was as if she was on like on a springboard before that, and that album just launched her. And then that with the Eras tour, like it was huge. Like she just went nuclear, and now she's a global phenomenon. Like she always was global phenomenon, but like now she really is like she is a top tier artist for the rest of time now, right?
Yeah.
So I think all of that popularity, it's like, okay, her next project, no matter what she does, it's going to dominate. And
Yeah.
so you have Tortured Poets Department come out, and I would agree with you. I don't think it's her best work. I think it's very bloated. I think there's great songs on there, but she needed to, if she had edited it down to like 13 songs instead of, I think there's like 35 or something. It's like if you would pick like the 13 or 14 best ones, I feel like we wouldn't be saying that. We'd be like, yo, that album's fucking awesome. But like there's too much, too bloated, and the songs start to run together and blur together. I think in the second half of the album, the like full version or whatever, there's like 5 songs that start off with the same, with just like a piano chord being played or something. It's like that's not good. That's not what you want, you know? So,
Mm.
but yeah, I would agree with you. I think like the success of the album was inevitable. Like there's no way it wasn't going to go nuclear. I am surprised at how long it's been at the number 1. I mean,
Right. Right.
yeah, like it is it's very impressive. It's kind of crazy actually. But I think with a few of these newer albums coming out, I think we'll start to see the decline just a little bit. So yeah. Cool stuff. But yeah, I am happy to see that Post Malone was able to get a number one with it. I think I had mentioned on last week that the first song, I Had Some Help, has done incredibly well commercially, like the views and all of that. The other singles that he's released, Guy for That and what's the other one? Pour Me a Drink, they have not done as well. They've actually kind of been flops from like a pop star perspective. They've been flops for Post Malone. So it's good to see that he got the number one. That's very cool for him. But I think my final parting words on it is, if you really want to listen to country, go listen to Stick Season or by Noah Kahan, or Great American Bar Scene by Zach Bryan. I think the general audience will enjoy those more. So well, there we go. We did it. 50 minutes.
Again.
Again, yeah. Turns out if we just speed run through all of it. No. Cool. All right. Well, I think we could, let's just call it there. Let's just keep it short and sweet.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening. Make sure to find us on our socials. We're just at Simple Songwriting on Instagram and Spotify and all of that. Follow our YouTube channel. I post some solo videos there. I've got like 2 in the works that I just need to record, but the scripts are done and everything. So yeah. You got any parting words?
Go listen to the Post Malone album.
Yeah. I'd say listen to it.
Tell us how much you love it.
Yeah, definitely listen to it. Like, come to your own conclusion. Just understand, just understand that some conclusions are more right than others. No, I'm joking. All right, let's head on. All right, cool. Let's end with the Wale. Wale.